Everybody, I am finally back after a massive hiatus. It's been, let's see, almost 6 months since my last video, so I'm back. Okay guys, so I'm back, and I guess I should start off with saying that if you have returned to watching my videos after our nearly 6-month hiatus, thank you for coming back. If you are new, thank you for checking me out. And this is just my little podcast and my little part of the YouTube verse. I am Cameron, also known as the Knitty Meggins. You can find me as the Knitty Meggins on Facebook, Ravelry, Instagram, and then theknittymeggins.com, which is a blog that I have woefully neglected but hope to get back on track with soon. And I will link all of that below. And I am just a stay-at-home mama to 4 little ones. We homeschool. We're in the Dallas area, and long knitting story short, I learned how to knit a long time ago when my 2 youngest were very young and babies really, and I think I did a couple of dishcloths, and then I just really didn't have any. It didn't really take hold with me, and so I took several years of a break, and just barely over a year ago I made a new friend who was really into knitting, and it kind of re-sparked that desire in myself, and since made more friends that knit that are local, and so it really kind of helped to have a community of like-minded knitters who like similar projects and are of similar age and have children who can play when we get together and knit, and so it really reignited that passion, and it just really took off from there like crazy, and now I cannot imagine ever not knitting. So there's that. So I guess where I should really kind of begin, I don't have any notes for today. My notebook is blank. Got a new notebook for myself for this. So I'm going to try to wing it, but from now on I will have notes. So there's so much to cover from the last 6 months. That's kind of where I guess I need to start, is catching up over the last 6 months period. So that's what I will start with. So my last video, I went and double checked, and it was March the 19th is the last published video. I had another video that I recorded and had almost completely finished editing shortly before my surgery in April, and my computer crashed, and it took everything with it, including my video editing software that I use. And so by the time we got everything back up to snuff, it was about time for me to go into surgery, and I kind of had bigger fish to fry, and I just didn't get to do it. And then since then is where I will catch you up from. So I mentioned it in previous videos, but on April 12th I had a hysterectomy. They did it through the abdomen, so it was a hardcore old school one, where they took everything but my ovaries. And I was in the hospital for several days. I thought I was going to be able to knit during that time. My bag of belongings was not nearly as big as my bag of yarn and needles and notions and patterns that I packed, thinking that I was going to have an extended hospital stay where I was of mind and physical ability to knit. All 4 of my children ended up being born via C-section, and I felt like if I could take care of a tiny human being right after abdominal surgery, surely I could knit. I was wrong. They do not necessarily pressure you to leave the hospital after you have a baby. However, I was greatly pressured to leave the hospital after my hysterectomy. They were ready to discharge me the day that I had it, and I was still hooked up to IVs, the boots on my feet, a catheter, pain pumps that had catheters going into each one of my sides. There was no way I was coming home. They were ready to let me go home the following day, and I had not even stood up out of bed at that point. And so they went ahead and let me stay that day, took all the cords and pumps and everything out of me that day, and then the following day I came home. Another big change was, excuse me, when you deliver a baby via C-section, you are, at least I was, given plenty of pain medication. My pain was very much under control. However, when you have a hysterectomy and you are not nursing, they can give you even more dosage of higher caliber, I guess, pain medication. So I slept for the 3 days I was in the hospital, and then I came home and I slept for the following week while my mom was here taking care of the kids, and then I slept for most of the week following that when my grandparents were up here helping take care of the kids and the house while I recovered. And then after that, I started having a lot of vision problems, and so I didn't really get to knit very much. I tried casting on multiple projects, a hat, a cowl, multiple shawls, a few different pairs of socks. I tried pretty much the gamut. And unfortunately, I had to frog each and every last one of them, with the exception of one, which I will get to in finished projects. And I was really disheartened. I had a lot of difficulty watching movies. I had a lot of difficulty reading. I couldn't knit to save my life. And I couldn't figure out what was happening. And I thought maybe it was medicine head. And I think a lot of it in the very beginning was. And then I thought it might be the medicine affecting my vision, which it may have. But after I had been off of all pain medication for quite some time, I still was having a lot of trouble. And I went to my eye doctor, and it turns out that even though my ovaries were left, and so I did not have any sharp change in my hormones that are expected with that, I did still have apparently a rather large hormone shift, and it affected my vision. One eye got a lot better, one eye got a lot worse. And that was why I was having such a hard time, as I flat couldn't see. So after several rounds at my eye doctor, we finally have things kind of settled and under control so I could see again. And then I knit a hat, which I will get to later, for my doctor. And then I took a pretty big break, and I just really wanted to focus on my physical recovery, my mental recovery. I went into it pretty ready, but there were some things that kind of swung back around and kind of really, I processed it after the surgery. Having a hysterectomy at 35 was something I kind of expected, but actually having it done and having the people quiz me that did, that I don't know if they thought maybe I didn't really need it, or they just couldn't honestly comprehend why a 35-year-old needed a hysterectomy. I'm not entirely sure. I try to believe everybody has, positive motives and are just genuinely curious. But I felt like I spent a really long time explaining and defending why I needed this surgery. And a lot of it I address on my blog. So if you're curious, you can go there for more detailed, because I know some people just really don't want to know details on stuff like that. So there's that. I think I have the first two parts are published, and I just need to hop on and publish the third part. I thought it had, and for some reason it hadn't, so I just need to go back and push to publish. So there's that. So I spent quite a bit of time there, and like I said, I homeschool, and so I spent quite a lot of time rescheduling and replanning our school year, because we typically start in January and end in October. So I had to kind of go back and remodify our school schedule so that we can make it work for us and make sure that all of our content was covered. In the state of Texas, laws are really lax with homeschooling, but I have my own personal standards that I'm pretty strict about, that are not negotiable necessarily for me. And so I really wanted to make sure that we had the benchmarks that I wanted to see met, scheduled for. So we had that. And really in the midst of all of that, take into account that we had my oldest, my son, who is 9, went to his first summer at preteen camp. So he was in Dallas for a week at Mount Lebanon. We had VBS, which I'm really active in, and took care of that for a week. We had this random round of strep hit everybody in the family 2 to 3 times each. So that was really bizarre. We normally don't get strep in the summer. That's more of like a springtime illness for my family. Um, and then now we have all three of my daughters who are 3, 4, and 6 are in ballet. The 9-year-old is currently off season with baseball. He was actually wrapping up his baseball season about the time that I had my surgery. His team came in second place, so go Rangers. And but we have started back to our homeschool co-op where we take 3 classes every Friday and I teach. And we've started back to ballet. Awana's just restarted this week. Choir will start back for the kids. Their children's choir will resume soon. So it's just a lot. It's been a lot. And my husband has had a lot going on at his job. He's about to start traveling a lot. So there's been a lot going on. So I initially had planned on having a 1 video per week. And I forget what day I was trying to upload. I don't even remember now. So I'm going to try to do it every 2 weeks and upload on Fridays, Thursday or Friday. So just somewhere in there, like I'd recorded a video, all of this yesterday, and then this crazy day happened, and I thought, I don't want to wait 2 weeks, and the video really wasn't that great from yesterday, so I just deleted it. We're redoing it, and it'll post hopefully today, which is Friday, September the 2nd. So, I guess what we can go into next is finished objects. Like I said, I really did not knit. I thought I was going to have all this knitting time while I was recovering. And between my vision and medicine head and just sheer chaos, that did not happen. But I did knit literally 3 things since April. That's how bad it has been. Technically 4, but I'll get to that. So the first thing that I knit, like I mentioned, I did knit a hat for my doctor. She is a poker player. She participates in poker tournaments. And she made a comment that she would really like a hat because it's cold in the casinos. And I thought, I can do that. Because my doctor is awesome and she really has seen me through a lot. She has seen me through cervical precancer. She has seen me through infertility problems. She delivered all 4 of my children, and then she did my hysterectomy. So she's done quite a bit. Had to deal with a little kid interruption. That's okay. That's what Mom's here for. Okay, so I went back and I double checked. I'm going to put a picture of the hat here for you. That's the hat that I made for her. It is the Easy Ombre Slouch Hat. It's on Ravelry. I honestly don't remember if it's a free pattern or not. I'm horrible with that. I began it on May 6th. I finished it May 14th. Normally a hat takes me a day, maybe 2. So for it to take that long should indicate what a hard time I had just trying to knit even the most basic of things while I was having vision problems. And I used Pima cotton and I held it double stranded. So there's that. Then I took a pretty good hiatus, not kind of sort of, but not really. I was trying to knit and just nothing, like my knitting mojo was gone. It was just gone. I had none. I desperately wanted to knit, and everything I knit, I would either knit it up and be almost done. There were a few that, it was like, all I had left to do was bind off, and I would hold it up, look at it, and go, I hate this, and I would completely rip it all out. There were some that I would try desperately to knit it, and I would go, something about this does not look right. Like, I remember I had almost completely finished one of Hermione's socks, the pattern Hermione socks. And it was in a yarn that the pattern was good, and the yarn was good, but the pattern and the yarn together was a royal mess. I tried to do like a Rose City roller sock, and again, I was almost completely done with it, and I forget what I did. It was something stupid. It was probably because of my vision, and I was like, ugh, I can't even salvage this, and I completely pulled it out. There were times I would fall asleep, and my smallest children would come try to help Mom by taking my knitting away from me while I was asleep, and they would pull the needles out and mess it up, and it, to me, was not worth the fight to try to save it. So I had a really long gap where just nothing was completed at all. And then I had my husband come. I'm trying to look at my notes on what I did finish. My husband came home and he told me that he had he had somebody that he worked with who was going to be a first-time grandparent, that he would really like it if I made a baby sweater or something. And I said, okay. And I tried multiple times to do N3s, and again, not sure if it was eyesight, knitting mojo, both, all of the above. I don't know. I could not get it done. And so he sat me down and he was like, look, I'm not trying to be pushy. If you don't want to knit from this guy, that's fine. I know you don't know this person, but if you're going to knit something, I need you to do it quickly. And I said, oh, okay, fine. I thought I had more time. I guess I misunderstood. I thought the baby was still like a couple months out and it was going to be fine. And I guess not. So I cast on July the 5th, the night of July the 5th, late at night, which is probably about, well, late to me. It was probably 8:30, 9 o'clock. It's late for me to start a project. And it was a baby vertebrae, and I cast it on using Modern Baby by Lion Brand, and I start knitting it, and I was just kind of doing my thing, and then the next morning I was sitting up and I was knitting and the kids were playing. It was our last week before we started back to school. And because yes, we school in the summer. And excuse me, I was knitting and I thought everything was fine and I really wasn't in a rush. And he called that night and he said, this was on a Wednesday. I remember vividly. And he called and he said, hey, how's that baby sweater coming? And I said, great. Why? And he goes, because he is leaving Friday. Tomorrow is his last day at this job for a while. His family is out of the country and he is going to be leaving Friday morning to fly to his family where the baby will be born. And he's going to stay there until after the baby's born and then he'll come back. Okay, you didn't warn me about that. So I had to have it done by that night. So that is the fastest I have ever knit a baby garment, and I had it done that night. I think I did the bind off at like 11 o'clock at night, but I got it done, and I got it to him, and hopefully a baby is wearing it and likes it. I don't know, but here's a picture of it. I will insert that here. So, yeah, that was baby vertebrae. I don't remember. No, ma'am. I don't remember if that was a paid pattern or not. I'm really sorry. I'll try to link everything in the show notes. I love when I tell my children to have quiet time and then they're anything but. Anyway. So then let's see, I started it on July 5th. I finished it on the 6th. And then we started back to school. And just a little bit of background on that is typically when we do our homeschool, we start our school year in January. We finish it early to mid-October, and then we take off the rest of October, November, December, and we just don't do school. So instead of my kids starting fourth grade, like my oldest would start fourth grade, he would have started school this week. It would have been his back to school week. Or no, last week. I'm sorry. Last week he would have started the fourth grade. We're wrapping up fourth grade because we stop in October. So that's why we do school in the summer. I'm not like a dictator about it. It's just in Texas, it's really, really hot. None of us deal with heat very well. And so as a family, we decided we would do school in the summer when we would be inside anyway, avoiding the heat. And then we can save our playtime and field trip time for when everybody else is back to school and work and places are less crowded and it's cooled off and it's just more enjoyable for us. So that's what we do. So we got back to school and then I noticed that there was going to be a knit along. I have a hair stuck right here. There was going to be a knit along for the Sugar Plum Shawl, which is by Mina Phillip. And I already had noticed the pattern. I really wanted to knit it and really wanted to do a shawl. I had done the Be Simple shawl, I believe is the name of it, and it was true to its name. And I just kind of wanted something a little bit more in depth and something a little bit bigger. I was ready to kind of level up. And so I thought, well, I'll do that. So this is my completed Sugar Plum Shawl. And it is the large size. I did the large because I had plenty of this yarn to do it with. And so this one took me a good while. I started it July the 23rd and I finished it August the 25th. So just a little over a month. So this is it. I made it in Lorna Lace's yarn. I used their fingering weight, and it is in Yorkshire Skies. I actually had purchased this yarn to do the 2016 Mystery Knit Along to go with the last season of Downton Abbey. And that's about the time my grandmother was really ill and then passed away, and I just really didn't feel like doing a Mystery Knit Along at that point. So even though I had paid to have the pattern and to do it, and I had the yarn, I just couldn't bring myself to do it. So I wanted to save it for something else, and so I saved it, and it ended up becoming this. So I went ahead and submitted the pictures into the Knit Along thread, and yes, I really like it. I loved it. This part was like my favorite. The down here with the drop stitches, not so much. But that's just me and personal preference. It was a great pattern. I really enjoyed knitting it. I could definitely see myself knitting it again. Yeah, I really, really liked it. So, and it still smells like my soak. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed this. This was a good knit. So that's what I completed. Not much. So next up is what is on my needles. And like I said, I tried to do this video the other day, and I stopped, and now I think I've like put up most of my stuff. So hold on just a moment. It's one of those things I just kind of tucked everything off to the side, and then, whoops. Okay, so what I have on my needles, I guess I will go from, I'll do it in this order. Okay, so the first thing I have is, it was a completed, and then it was frogged, and now it's kind of sort of, but not really, a work in progress, because it is completely off the needles, but it's still two separate things of yarn. And that was toe-up socks for my husband. It was going to be the first pair I ever made, and of socks for him. It was going to be my first pair of toe-up. It was going to be my first time magic loop. It was going to be my first time everything. And the sock looked great, and I finished it, and I had him try it on, and I followed the pattern exactly, and I had a cardboard cut out of his foot with the line measured for where to put the line for the heel, because I was going to do an afterthought heel. And everything looked great, and then he tried it on, and it was like way too long, the actual foot. So I adjusted the measurements and tore everything out, and so now I just need to go back and redo it with the revised measurements. It's a learning curve, but I do plan on restarting those really soon, so that's why I consider it technically still a work in progress. So those will just be 2 at a time toe-up vanilla socks for him. Another work in progress I have is this, which there's not much to it, and the reason behind it is this is going to be a hat that looks like one of Hermione's. I believe it's from the Half-Blood Prince. I need to double check. Anyway, I did not have the correct size needles, and I was going to try to knit and get gauge. I'm a really tight knitter, unfortunately. It's something I've been trying to work on. So anyway, I was going to try to get gauge even with the incorrect size needles, and it didn't work. So, and yeah, and I was trying to just do the hat regardless, and I realized it wasn't going to work. So I have the proper needles reordered and replaced, and so this now needs to be ripped out and restarted, but it's going to be something that it normally, seriously, it only takes me like a couple of days to do a hat. This one may take a little bit longer because it's a little more detailed, but this should be a hat shortly. The next thing I am working on is a pattern by Mina Phillip again. And if you don't know, she's also, her podcast is the Knitting Expat. I'm sure you've seen it, but for anybody who hasn't. And she came up with the pinwheel blanket, and so I've started on that. But that's something I don't really work on very much. It's kind of like the sock yarn scrap blanket. I have designated yarn for it. It's just the frequency in which I sit down and work on it is very few and far between. And then my main work in progress, which I should finish, if not today, by tomorrow for sure, is this. And this is the Spindrift Shawl. It is by Curious Handmade. I knew it was handmade something. This is a paid for pattern, but it's really inexpensive, and it's a, oh, I'm like mid-row. I love this pattern. It has been a joy to knit. I have really enjoyed it. This has been a good Netflix knit. It has enough to keep me interested, but not so involved that I can't just take a breath and fix a glass of sweet tea and sit down and turn on Netflix and binge on a show while I knit. And I've been binging on a lot lately. So you kind of see I'm in this eyelet area now, and then the rest of it's just more, you know, there's some eyelets around the edging. Anyway, and it's knit an actual knit stitch. A lot are garter stitch, but this is actually stockinette stitch. So I have really enjoyed this. It has 114 rows total, not counting bind off. Bind off is a picot bind off, so that's its own beast. But there's 114 rows total, and I'm currently in row 109. So yeah, by the time you get to row 111, you're 90% done. And then row 114 is considered 95%, even though there's only the bind off to do. So this is it. It's kind of hanging out here. This yarn, I have absolutely fallen in love with it while I've been working on it. I don't know if I'm going to have enough to completely finish just out of this skein. I do have another one that I can borrow a little bit from, and then just be really picky what I use in the future for its sister skein. But this is Smooshy with Cashmere by Dream in Color, and it is the absolute most favorite yarn I have ever worked with at this rate, just because it's so soft and smushy, true to its name. And the colorway is Mermaid Shoes, and this is one that I saw in my local yarn store, and I just fell in love with it. And the number one comment I get from people is that it is soft, and they love the colors in it. And I normally don't go for yarn that is like this variegated, super colorful. I normally don't do it. But I did, and I'm loving this. And I think it's just simple enough of a pattern that the colors and the pattern work, they play well together. And I started this on the 26th. So I finished the Sugar Plum Shawl, I believe, on a Friday, and then I started this the very next day. So, this goes with my, I don't know if you guys have ever seen these. I also have one for the circular needles. But these are from Knitting I Love, and her needle holders are awesome. So that goes with my pinwheel blanket. So there's that. So next we can talk about the DFW Yarn Crawl and my acquisitions. Okay, so the DFW Yarn Crawl, for anybody who's not in our area and doesn't know about it, is absolutely amazing. This is my passport. I have to mail it in, like I'm putting it in the post office box tomorrow. And it is, you go to a bunch of different yarn stores. I didn't make it to all of them, unfortunately, just because this is my first year and I wasn't entirely sure of how to do it or what I was doing. But I went to multiple. I went to Fiber Circle, which is my local yarn store. It's like 30 minutes away from me. It's also the largest yarn store in Texas, from what I understand. So I'm spoiled. Right down the street from that was Fancy Fibers, where I went, and I didn't buy anything from Fiber Circle just because that's where I normally go. Fancy Fibers, I just bought a tape measure. It's more for raw fiber for spinners. I have not allowed myself to start spinning yet. I would love to learn how, but my rule of thumb is, for the sake of my husband's sanity and the sake of our budget, I will not check out spinning, like physically start spinning, until my kids are like at least middle school and older. Just because right now the thought of trying to spin with multiple little ones is not anything that I'll lose my mind. Plus, I don't have room for a wheel right now. I also visited Holly's Yarn Shop, which I had visited one time before, so it was good to go back. The Knitting Fairy, where I just had a blast. They had Build a Bat, which I watched my friend do because my friend does do spinning. Got to see Karen Dawn of Karen Dawn Designs and Round Table Yarns, who I had met before at Lindale's very first Fiberfest last year. I got to see her again, which that was always a pleasure, and I got some of her yarn, which I'll show you. I went to the McKinney Knittery, which was amazing. They had a trunk show there with a couple of different people, and I bought yarn marker, 2 sets of stitch markers and 2 skeins of yarn. And then right around the corner from there was this amazing pie place. So I had a really hard time deciding, y'all. I ended up getting the chocolate silk pie with the pretzel crust, but I know when I go back, I will be getting the lemon pie with a ginger snap crust. That's what I want to get next time. I already know. It was really good pie. I also hit up Yarn and Stitches, and then that's all I hit in that one day. And then the following day, or the following weekend, which was this past weekend, I went to Rose Path Weaving, which is just on the outskirts of Tyler. I went to go visit my mom. She lives in Tyler, and I hit that place up. So that was a lot of fun. So most of this is from that. I will do that first, and then do anything that was not included in the yarn crawl. I will show. I will say okay, and that's all, and avoid confusion. So, okay, so this came from one place, and this came from one place, and this came from another place, and this came from one place, and this came from one place. Okay, I think I've got it all sorted out now. So, one of the stores I went to, they had kits already made up for the Flotus shawl. So I'm going to cover up the Ravelry code. I don't want to give that away. That wouldn't be nice. But this is what it looks like. You have a main color, and then you have like mini skeins that you use that kind of are gradient. And I totally got talked into this by my friend Erica, who is also known as A Simple Motif. You can find her. She has got some awesome knitting stuff that she has posted on Ravelry and Instagram as well. And so she got one. I got a completely different colorway, but same. We both got Flotus, so we're going to try to do a knit along together with this. So these are the purples for the gradient stripes. And then this is the main body yarn that I got. So, and I don't remember what the name of hers was. I think it was like Sensible Shoes. Mine was Pillbox Hat. So, I really like it. I'm excited to do it. I really like, to me, that just looks so cool. So cool. All right. And I believe that was from Holly's Yarn Shop. I think so. I think so. Yes. Yes, it was. Because we got this, and then we went over to Sonic. That's sad. That's how I remember things, but it is. And it was raining. And it was just blech. But we still had fun. And then at the McKinney Knittery, that's a mouthful. They had some Lazy Cat yarn. And they had a trunk show going. And so I got these two. So this one is a Doctor Who themed colorway. This is Time and Space. And then this was a Yarn Crawl exclusive. Ta-da! And this is Navajo Gem. And really, I like this one, but the main thing that got me about this one was that it was an exclusive for the Yarn Crawl. So I bought it. Even though it's not necessarily something I would have felt super compelled to buy, I may have been like, okay, that's a colorway I want to go back and order later. I really wanted to go ahead and get it because I want to make something fabulous with this. I'm not sure what yet. Probably a shawl. And then it'll just be like my little thing, and I go, Yarn Crawl 2016, that was it. So, yeah. And I really wanted to buy all the yarn. There's a lot of yarn companies that I like, but I don't necessarily like all of their colors or yarn dyers. This was one where I legitimately could have probably had at least one of all the colors, maybe save for a couple, and it wasn't that I didn't like them, it's just that they wouldn't look good on me. So these are my two Lazy Cat yarns. And these are both fingering weight. Yes. Fingering. Yes. 438 yards, 437 yards. This one's merino, silk, and cashmere. And boy, does it feel nice. And this one is superwash merino, nylon, and stellina. So there you go. I've got a basket down here to put all my yarn in, so I can take it back to my yarn corner when I'm done with this. I want to put all my works in progress in the. There we go. We're just gonna get it. We're gonna start loading it up big time. Okay, so we left there, and then when we were at Yarn and Stitches, I have been wanting some yarn. I've seen multiple dyers do it, where it's one color with like strips when you're looking at it in a hank of color, but then when you go to knit it, it's just more dispersed color here and there. And I found some. This is Dark Spark. It's 100% superwash merino. It's fingering weight. It's 490 yards, and this is it. And this is by Yarn Carnival, which is another Texas dyer. I think I pretty much got all Texas. I don't. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, these are all. I ended up inadvertently getting all Texas yarn. Whoop whoop! That's what you get for living in an awesome state. Not trying to ditch or be hateful about other states, but I'm pretty proud of Texas, and I wasn't even born here. So Yarn Carnival, yeah, Dark Spark. I'm excited about this one. And then we went to the Knitting Fairy in Grand Prairie, which is where Karen Dawn was at, and I was really excited. And again, she has round table yarns, and I would take all of it gladly without any problem. She's going to have a knitting club you can have between now and September, I believe it's 15th, to sign up. Yes. And I really, really, really want to do it. I just need to make sure I have the blessing of the hubby to do it. And since I just bought all of this, I gotta convince him somehow I need more yarn. And pretty much if it's a color that I wouldn't necessarily purchase from her, it's not because I don't like the color. I really do love all of her colors. It's more that it just wouldn't necessarily look good on me, and I'm turning into a really selfish knitter. But I spent like my first batch of knitting years ago, and then up until recently, I would knit and give everything away, and now I'm like, no, it's my turn. Me time. Me knitting time. So everything I buy for me. I've got to go buy for Christmas soon. But everybody wants just black, brown, tan, neutral, blah. Just fine. I'll do it. So anywho, I bought these two. Ta-da! So this one is Merlin, my hair, oh my goodness, self-striping yarn. I will turn the tag around so you can get all of the information off of that, because yeah. I like this so much, and I would love to make socks, but I don't think I can make socks with this. I want to have all of her self-striping sock yarn, but it's going to be hard to actually make socks out of any of it. But what I actually bought this for, I may do socks with it, but I'm really even more tempted to do a hat that you use self-striping yarn on. And it looks kind of like your interlock, but it's not. And so that's what I'm really interested in doing with this. That's the intended use. I may change my mind. I reserve the right to change my mind. But right now, that's what this is probably going to end up being, is a hat for me. Yeah. And then this is the other one that I have. Here's the tags, and get all the information off of that bad boy. Come on, focus, focus. I think this one wants to be a shawl. Yeah. Fingering weight. So pretty. I'm not normally a like purpley person, but I noticed that a lot of what I have has purple in it. So I guess I'm in a purple mood. I don't know. And then when I went to Rose Path Weaving, you walk in the door. It's like literally down this country road, and it's a very small building. And you walk in, and it's like bam, Madeline Tosh, right there. So this is my Madeline Tosh. I have Cactus Flower. Is this one? This one's Mill Pond, and they're both fingering weight. And it's just the Tosh Merino Light. Is what I got. And everybody was like, oh, those will go beautiful together. And I thought, yeah, they probably would, but that wasn't what I was intending. So they may end up married. They might stay single. I haven't talked to them about their dating preferences yet. So I don't know what I'm going to do with them. But I thought they were pretty. So I grabbed those two. Not purple. So that is all I got at during the actual yarn crawl itself. I also just, like right within about a week or two of the yarn crawl beginning, I had ordered and got in some knit picks, Felici. I have 2 of each, but I didn't see the point in holding up all 4. But I got Rainbow Sock Yarn and Time Traveler, kind of like the Doctor Who scarf yarn. Probably going to end up needing to order more of this because I want a pair and my husband wants a pair. So I got that in. I found this on a Yarn D-Stash site. So see, purple. I got to get off this purple kick. And this is Zen Yarn Garden, and it is 75% superwash merino, 15% cashmere, 10% silk. It is super, super soft. And it's Spring Blooms is the colorway. And it is 430 yards in this one. So I grabbed that. And then for my pinwheel blanket, I kind of wanted it to be rainbowish type colors peeking out through some gray, like a cloudy sky. And so I ordered from Extra Ann. There's her little tag. She's on Etsy. I ordered 2 of these gray, which is a wool and bamboo blend, if I remember correctly. And then I ordered some minis, and these are non-superwash fine organic merino wool is what these are. And they're not super bright in your face rainbow colors. They look a lot brighter on my screen than they do in real life. These are kind of more pastel-y, kind of almost Eastery colors. So there's 4, and then the other 4. And I got 2 sets of those. So, and I have done some orders on Etsy that take absolutely forever to get to me, which is fine because I know a lot of them are folks just like me who have a family and possibly jobs outside of that, and so that's fine. Her yarn got to me, like, I would order it and 3 days later it was in my mailbox, and she's up north and I'm down here in Texas, so. And now I get to tell you my super fun story about the rest of my acquisitions. So I got really excited. There's a cowl pattern I've really been wanting to knit, and it's just in the process of going through the detail work before it is officially published. It was kind of an offer suggestion kind of at the same time between me and the pattern writer to do a test knit. She needed 3 people, and I ended up being person number 3. And so I'm going to test knit a cowl that I have been wanting to knit since I saw it on one of her podcasts. And she was like, yeah, if you want to do it. And she emailed me the pattern, and I got to looking at it, and I thought, oh, cool, maybe I can use that purple colorway to do it. And then I realized that was fingering, and she needed for me to use sport weight. So I actually, we kind of went back and forth, and we chatted, and she's so sweet, and she was like, hey, the yarn is going to be still up at the Knitting Fairy if you want to go back up there and grab some, or I can mail you some. And I was like, well, I'm an hour away. I've got doctor's appointments, ballet, Awanas. Like, this is just a crazy week. I don't think I can get there because I'm like an hour away with no traffic, which with Dallas, there's always traffic. I'm an hour away with no traffic before I can get to Grand Prairie. So I really don't think I'm going to get there. Let me know what you have when you go to pick up your yarn, and I'll pick from whatever's left over, or you can just pick and send it to me. It doesn't matter to me. And then I'll get to work on this, because by then I should be finishing up this shawl. And so I was just going to wait and hang out until Thursday night, which was last night. And I figured I would hear from her sometime last night or today. And then yesterday happened. Y'all, this is crazy. So I woke up, been fighting allergies really bad the last several weeks. And I decided we were just going to have a mellow day. And I had called the groomer to ask if they could set up an appointment for our dog Bella, who's a little 10-pound Chihuahua. She needed a bath and her nails clipped. And they said they could work her in around lunchtime. So the kids and I loaded up in the car, and we took her down to the groomer, and we dropped her off, and it was about lunchtime. We normally eat around 11:30 or 12, and it was about 11:15. So we were closing in on lunchtime. And so there's a Cracker Barrel just right around the corner from where the groomer is. And Cracker Barrel is one of those restaurants that the kids and I all enjoy, but my husband, not so much. We're both working on losing weight. I've lost over 15 pounds at this point. He's lost, I think, 10, maybe more. And so we typically have been very mindful of what we eat. And so he's like, well, if all I want is pancakes and chicken fried steak, I probably don't need to eat there because it's not going to help. So the kids and I have pretty much figured out that if we're going to eat at Cracker Barrel, we are going to have to eat at Cracker Barrel without him. So we decided we're right here by it. He's not with us. Let's go. So we went to go eat, and it was just the 4 kids and myself, and I was really tired and really not feeling up to it. But, you know, sometimes as a mom, you just suck it up and you do what you need to do. And we were eating, and had a lot of people come over and kind of, you know, are they all yours? Yes. They're being so well behaved. They are right now. They can be really rambunctious, you know. Why aren't they in school? We homeschool. Then why aren't you at home doing school? Lunch break. And we, you know, we had kind of already figured out we probably weren't going to do very much schoolwork anyway. Typically Thursday and Friday are our lighter schoolwork days just because we have co-op. So typically we don't do a whole lot of schoolwork on Thursday and Friday anyway, because we are preparing to do our co-op classes on Fridays, which, like I said, each one of my children take 3 separate classes. None of them are in the same class. So they all take 3 completely separate courses, and I teach 2 completely separate classes. So there's 14 classes between the 5 of us that we have to prep for. And so I was like, you know, well, it's lunch break. And so we were eating, and out of the blue, this, you know, the waitress kind of comes up to us, and she said, hi, I just wanted to let you know that there was a man who was sitting here near you, which I had noticed him. He wasn't creepy. I just noticed he was by himself, and so he was people watching. And she said, the man was over here. He noticed that you were with your children, and that, you know, they were being very well behaved, and, you know, at the same time, you seemed kind of tired, and you were trying to, you know, do good, and he has paid for your meal. Blew me away. That was incredibly kind, and I was very thankful for it. So I called my husband, and I said, hey, this, you know, really nice thing just happened, and we're at Cracker Barrel, and I know you don't necessarily want any food from here, but I do know you happen to have a soft spot for their bottled sarsaparilla, so if you would like for me to buy you a bottle of sarsaparilla, let me know, and I will take it home and put it in the fridge, and you can have it when you get home. And he said, no, thanks, but hey, if you're out and about today, do you want to come over here and have lunch, and we can have some tacos? And I thought, we just ate lunch, and you're an hour away. I guess we can be hobbits and have second lunch. Woohoo! Doesn't work for losing weight, but hey. So I said, well, I tell you what, um, I've I've been wanting to get some yarn and it's still at the Knitting Fairy today if I go today. So how about I go get the dog, drop the dog off at the house, load the kids back up, and then we'll drive out to Grand Prairie. I can pick up this yarn, and then we can just scooch over to where you're at, which he's south of Dallas, his office is, and we can meet for what we like to call dinner, which is between lunch and dinner. And then we'll just snack later on in the evening, and the kids can go on to bed. We figured that was a great idea. So the kids and I go shoe shopping. They got the girls anyway, got their fall shoes. Turns out the lady thought that my youngest needed a size 6. We got home. We actually tried them on this morning. She needs 9. Whoops. We'll have to go take those back. But that's okay. So we got the shoes, and we got our dog, and we picked her up and, dropped her off here at the house. And I said, hey, let's go see Dad. Let's go be hobbitses. Let's have a second lunch. Let's go have dinner. Let's go see Dad. We're going to drive into Dallas. Heads up, Mom's going to stop and buy some yarn. My kids are normally really great with Mom buying yarn. They know a knitting mom is a happy mom, and so they're good. I can hear my dog outside of my bedroom door. So we loaded up and we started driving, and I said, oh, look over there. You can see like the sky is really dark, and you can see there's like a torrential downpour over there. And about 5 minutes later, between the direction we were going in and the direction the storm was going in, we all kind of converged, and we were in this torrential downpour. And so I had to put on the hazards. I think I was driving like 20 miles an hour on the highway. Everybody was. It wasn't just me. Nobody could see the highway. At least I couldn't. There were cars that were going off the highway and into the medians. It was a pretty precarious situation that we were in. And so we ended up pulling over at the first exit that I could see and know that I could safely get off on, get off the highway. And we did, and we pulled into a gas station. Remember that. We were at a gas station. Just remember that. For 30 minutes at a gas station. Remember that. And we watched half of what felt like, anyway, half of the Cars movie. And then finally the rain let up enough that I felt safe getting on the road again, and so we did. We saw a lot of areas had flash flooded that we had to navigate around. We saw several cars that had gone off the highway, so I was really thankful that we had pulled off, because it could have been a much more dangerous of a situation had I attempted to continue driving in that storm. It was just a freak downburst it was overcast, but I did not anticipate a storm like that hitting. So we left our house at like noon. I anticipated it taking, roughly an hour to get to the Knitting Fairy. I think we got there at 2:30. It took so long for us to get there between the rain and everything else. So we got there and we got in the yarn store, and God bless the people at the Knitting Fairy. My kids went bonkers. Okay. Had a little one join me. She's over here eating candy. I had a bite too. It was good. Anyway. So God bless the people at the Knitting Fairy. By the time we got into the place, everybody was tired. Everybody was cranky. Everybody was sticky. Everybody needed to go to the bathroom. We were in a right fine mess. So, and my son at this point, who I later realized had not had his medicine for his ADHD, was like literally just bouncing and climbing off. It was bad. I got to looking at the yarn. I did not get purple. I went in there with the mindset, I have bought way too much purple. Avoid the purple. This is what I ended up getting. These 3. And they're all round table yarns. They're all Tristan, which is 100% superwash merino sport weight yarn. There's 328 yards. This one is Lady of the Lake. I hope I'm saying this one right. Taliesin. I love this color. This one is Beaumains, I believe is how it's said. I think. Anyway. So that is what I ended up picking. And it ended up, the 4 kids picked these 3 colors. And I asked my husband which one needs to be made into the actual cowl, and he picked this one. So it looks like this one will be the cowl. So I did get the yarn. And we got loaded back up into the car. And when I checked out their stitch markers, if you're ever in the Knitting Fairy, they have like a massive selection of knit marker or stitch markers. I bought My Little Pony, and that may have been it last time. I wanted to say I bought another one, but it may have just been My Little Pony. You like it? High five. Anyway, I looked at The Walking Dead, I looked at Sherlock, I looked at all kinds, and I actually ended up, I was like, nope, I'm spending my money on yarn. So that's what I got. And we got back into the car, and no ma'am. I got back into the car and called my husband, and I was like, okay, I know. I just put in, you know, the name of your office in the navigation, and it says we're like 30-45 minutes away from you. Seemed about right to me, so just plan on us being there, you know, in about that amount of time. And he said, okay. And so I started driving to his office, and I realized it looked like we were going in the opposite direction. I tried not to stress out. I have a pretty poor sense of direction, unfortunately, so I thought maybe it was just me. And then I realized we were crossing Lake Worth, and that we were in Fort Worth, and we were not going back through Dallas like we were supposed to. Because we had gone through Dallas to get to Grand Prairie, so I needed to turn around and go back through Dallas again, and then go to the other side of Dallas a bit to get to where my husband was. And so I was like, this is not right. I've gone the completely wrong direction. So I exit the highway. I turn onto I can't even remember the name of the road now. There's a barbecue restaurant of the same name, because I was laughing hysterically when we came across it. Because it's one I had heard of all the time, and I was like, yep, now I know how I got its name. Anyway, I was on this road. It was like a back road, like farm to market style road. It was windy, just one lane in each direction. There were like a lot of barns and farmhouses, you know, type out there. And I thought, oh dear Jesus, we are so lost. And I called my husband and I said, I don't know where I am. And he said, it's taking you to our corporate location, which is in Azle. And I said, didn't even think about it. It's never done that to me before. It has always taken me to the correct office site. It's never tried to direct me to Azle. And he said, well, if you can just get back on the highway. And I was like, I don't even know what direction the highway is in at this point. And it was about that time I realized I was almost out of gas. And that never, ever happens to me. And it happened yesterday. And I thought, I am going to run out of gas. I just sat 30 minutes at a gas station earlier, and now I'm going to run out of gas. With 4 kids in the car. In the middle of nowhere. Outside of Fort Worth. This is awesome. Not so much. Was it funny? Uh-huh. Luckily, we were able to find a gas station. I think I had like 8 miles worth of gas left, which I know is a total estimate, and the gas station was like 2 miles away, so we made it barely. I have never been that close, and I never want to be that close again to running out of gas. I thought it was completely nerve-wracking. And I have anxiety, and so my anxiety was through the roof at that point, and I started pumping the gas, and I told the kids, I was like, I'm going to run inside, get drinks and snacks really quick. I will be right back out. I can see the car. This is like, you know, not a long distance between where I could get something for us and where my car was. I took the keys out. Nobody could, you know, drive off with the car or anything. You know, we were the only ones at the gas station. It's literally in the middle of nowhere. Normally wouldn't do it, but considering our circumstances, I was like, okay, I think it's going to be okay to do it this time. So, obviously, cracked the windows. It was not hot. You know, it was fine. And I ran inside, I grabbed the drinks, I grabbed candy. It was just whatever was just right there at the very front, so I didn't have to really go very deep into the store. And I paid for it, and the guy was stoned out of his mind. It was very obvious he was stoned out of his mind. He completely cracked me up because it was just kind of like a needed comic relief at that point, just how goofy he was because of his situation. I'm sure it's not funny to have an employee that's stoned. But just his interaction with me and how he was talking to me, it kind of made me giggle. And as I was walking out, I turned around and he goes, "Hey, have an awesome day getting found." And I don't really know what possessed me, but I just had this moment where it kind of came back to me from Lost, and I was like, "Hey, have a cluckety cluck cluck day." And he cracked up and I walked out because I needed to get back to the car. And the kids were, fine. They were in there talking about our adventure and how they thought we needed to find a hotel and, that we were in the middle of nowhere. Thank God this gas station appeared out of nowhere. And so we got back on our road, and maybe a couple more miles down the road, we were back to complete civilization again, and we were able to get on the highway, and we drove through Fort Worth, and we were actually coming back into Dallas. We had gone back through Grand Prairie again, and we're going into Dallas, and my husband called, and he was like, "Are you still near our corporate office?" I said, "No, why?" He goes, "Our office just got struck by lightning, and we need some stuff from our corporate office." So what do you want me to turn around and go back? I've already been on enough of an adventure. Not a big deal. And he said, "No, if you were already in Dallas, just come on. You've been in the car all day unintentionally. Just come on." So we ended up meeting in Mesquite, which was kind of the halfway from where I was at that point of the phone call to where his office was. So we just kind of met halfway. And we ended up having a nice dinner at a Mexican food restaurant. I don't even remember the name of it. Maybe Cafe Del Rio. I don't remember. I literally, by the time we pulled up, it was like a halo over that sucker. My husband was there. I knew how to get home from there. He was safe despite the lightning strike. Everything was going to be okay. And apparently some people in the office had this weird tingling sensation just moments before the lightning hit. So some people could feel, some effects from the lightning strike. He didn't. So we ended up having dinner. So what we had originally had anticipated at Cracker Barrel as being a meal that would take place 3:30ish ended up being a meal that took place around 6 o'clock at night because of our grand adventure through Fort Worth and Grand Prairie. But it was fun. It's something that my kids and I will remember for a long time, I'm sure, and just the randomness of it all.
That adventure was awesome.
Our adventure was awesome. There you go. And we made it home right around their bedtime, because we were still about an hour from home at that rate, and so still had another hour's drive to go after we finished our dinner. And my kids go to bed fairly early, especially on a school night for co-op. So it was come home, everybody took a bath. I did my prep work really quickly for my classes, and then I think I knit maybe 2 rows on my shawl, and then I called it quits and I came to bed. So every time I look at these, I will remember my adventure to Fort Worth and lightning strikes and cluckety cluck cluck days and gas stations in the middle of nowhere. So that's about it for me. I will get to editing this video and get it uploaded as soon as I can. I will go ahead and publish part 3 of my hysterectomy story. Like I said, I have a designated notebook. Ta-da! So I'm going to try to blog a couple of times a week and then do a video every 2 weeks. And again, you can always see what I'm up to on Instagram. I'm pretty active there. Probably more so there than anywhere else, honestly. So you can always catch up with me there and see what I'm working on and what's going on with our family. So that's about it for now. Hopefully, I'm going to try to set some goals. So by the time I do a video in 2 weeks from now, I hope to have the cowl finished. The shawl finished, the hat finished, and socks at least partially finished. We'll see how well I do on that. That's what I'm hoping for. So, if there's anything you want to know, ask me, see on the blog, see in a video, let me know. I'm a pretty open book. And hopefully everybody else is having a great start to their September. Hopefully not necessarily with adventures to Fort Worth and lightning strikes. And if you have kids, I hope they're having a great start to their school year. And if they're school aged. And yeah. So I'm going to go see what my kids are up to. I know my littlest needs a nap. That's why she kept coming to the door, but she likes to nap in my bed. So I'm going to get them down for a nap, edit this, upload it, try to finish my shawl, and get started on that cowl. So you guys have a great time, and let me know what you're working on. I always like hearing what other people are working on. I watch podcasts with a notepad so I can write down patterns. So I will see y'all again in 2 weeks. Bye. Happy knitting.